Hey guys, it's Alex Burtson, the Manic Scholar, back again with another Michael Teachings chart. Today we're doing Joe Rogan's chart. If you don't know who Joe Rogan is, he's right now he's mostly well known for his podcast that he does, the Joe Rogan Experience, where he interviews a lot of different people talking about philosophical subjects and deeper subjects. But he's also a commentator for UFC. He's really into fighting, different martial arts. But his main platform has been the Joe Rogan Experience. Um, so we're going to get in details of his chart. And if you don't know what Michael Teachings is, it's a channeled body of knowledge that talks about our soul types called roles and the different characteristics we take on for each life, which are called overleaves. It also talks about our soul age, where we are in our reincarnational cycle, and the kinds of lessons that we're learning at the moment. So I'll get into detail of Joe Rogan's chart here. So in every chart, there's two sections. There's essence and overleaves. The essence is characteristics that stay the same for your whole reincarnational cycle. So for all your lives on Earth, you're going to have these same characteristics here, same traits. And overleaves are for this life only. You take on extra characteristics such as a goal, attitude, mode, certain centering, and obstacle that alters your focus and the way your personality expresses itself for this life. So we just determine that before we're born. So let's talk about his essence. His role is warrior, which is a very grounded, solid role. They're very productive. Um, they're on the action axis, so they get a lot done. They like going through to-do lists and getting things done. They're typically very disciplined. Then they work hard. So that's his role. His essence twin is a sage and is discarnate, so it's not alive right now, which means that he gets a boost of essence twin energy. So he's a little bit like a sage because his essence twin is a sage, and the sages are the communicators. They're the ones that like to communicate insight and wisdom. So, and this also applies to like comedy, lots of different types of communication and creativity. Um, is a natural part of the sage, so it fits for him because he also does some comedy stuff, comedy specials, and he's a comedian among his other things that he does. His cadence position is server, and he has greater cadence as also server, so it's doubling up on server. So that makes him a little bit more warm, nurturing, and caring. He's going to have some of those characteristics. Want to be very sociable uh, and warm. So he's got some of those characteristics too, and he also has king as his cadence, which is usually the kings are the ones that organize like businesses or kingdoms, but they're the ones that usually at the top of the structure that are keeping everything going and working. It's also on the action axis like the warrior, so he's going to have some characteristics of that too. He's got an artist and task companion, which helps with creativity. He's got love orientation, so he's focused on the emotions throughout all his lives on Earth. His male female energy ratio is 82% female. Sorry, 82% male and 18% female. So it's really high male energy. So that really um, emphasizes the doing aspect of things, being in action, getting a lot done, being very productive. They're more single pointed towards goals and achieving things. And the female energy is more of a being, and it creates an environment of energy, and it's creative, but it's more focused on being. So he's more on the doing side. His frequency is 48, which is right in the middle, so it's not he doesn't go through things super fast or more slower. He's more fluid in how his energy feels. It's the average frequency is right in the middle, like 50. So he's right there. He has 10 previous cycles, which is what I see a lot with a lot of the charts I channel. But the average previous cycles for humans is 4. So he's ways away from how many cycles he's completed. A cycle is incarnating on a planet and going through all the soul ages, learning all your lessons before you stop incarnating and you start going to the higher planes. So basically, he's lived on 10 different planets before Earth, going through a cycle as a certain role that he chose for that cycle. So this is his 11th cycle on Earth. His global job and community responsibility are interesting because it really reflects what he does. Organization is his global job, so it's all about taking information or structures or things that exist and organizing them in a way that they're accessible, understandable, usable, things like that. And you can see that's a mix of warrior energy and scholar energy. The warrior is as a productive element, and the scholar is that studying element, the learning element to organization. Community responsibility reflection is about reflecting on what you've learned, different things that you've learned, and trying to see the higher meaning or purpose of it. Uh, how does it affect us on a spiritual level? So you can see how this plays into what he does, organizing his podcast and having all these people on the podcast um, who are sharing certain information, and he tries to get to the deeper meaning of everything uh, that is talked about. So he's really reflective, and that fits for reflection as his community responsibility, and he's very organized in getting all this information that he's gathering and through these interviews and putting it out to the world in a way that's accessible. So this is going to be all this stuff that I just said. That's going to be applying to him in all his lives on Earth. He's always going to have this same setup. So it's really cool. That's what's really cool about the Michael teachings, is because you can see how we're unique on a soul level and that we have a different purpose than everybody else. And we even have the same global job and community responsibility for every life. So we have a certain orientation to life that we're here to experience, that's uniquely our own, different from everybody else. So it's cool to see all that. So that's his essence. Let's talk about his overleaves real quick. He's in the baby soul age, but he's level 7, so he's basically done with the baby soul age. Baby soul age is focused on structure. It's about fitting into society, following rules, getting along with everybody else. It came after the infant soul age, which is just focused on survival in the basic sense. Um, so he's already integrated into society and knows how to fit into society. But he's moving into the young soul age now because he's level 7 baby. So he's going to be in the lives coming up. He's going to be focused on achievement. Being as successful in the outer world as you can is basically with the young soul. So he's on the earlier part of his cycle. So he'll have a lot more lives left. Usually, to complete the soul age process, it's to get through all 5 soul ages. During the reincarnational process, it's about 100 to 200 lives to get through this whole thing. So he's probably, it could be around 100 possibly if he had 200 lives, but maybe he's around maybe 45 lives or so. It's hard to tell because it's different for each person. So some people go through a lot of lives because they want to have a more thorough experience, and other ones just want to get through it quick. So we don't really know. I might, if I start picking up this channeling these charts myself, I will probably start trying to figure out how many past lives people have had because it's interesting information. Okay, so that's his soul age. His goal is discrimination, which is about making better choices, learning how to say no to things that you don't want in your life, So it is developing better discrimination in what you bring in to your life and what you keep out of your life. It could be people, it could be situations, different things. So he's really focused on that in this life, is learning how to say no to things so that he makes better choices, essentially. So that's what the focus for this life in particular is. That's the main theme there out of all the different goals. His attitude is stoic, which is about more about the inner world than the outer. If you're stoic, you kind of unaffected by what's happening in the outer world. You could just be calm and serene despite what's happening. So it's more about the inner world, and so they don't usually show their emotions very much. Um, they kind of hold them like at their faces, just like it's stoic. So there's like no emotion coming through. So it can be harder to express emotions. But what's interesting with him is he's in passion mode, which is so he releases his energy very passionately. So that's an interesting mix with the stoic, but both stoic attitude and passion mode are on the inspiration axis. They're inspiration axis overleaves. So that deals with, like the emotions in the inner world, um, and kind of highlighting that aspect of things. So he's going to have a little bit of that kind of focus on the emotions in the inner world, um, with these two here. His centering is intellectual with moving secondary. So he processes things intellectually primarily, and then he goes into action from them. His obstacles are self-destruction and impatience. Usually, people with self-destruction have a fear of loss of control, so they can become very disciplined and really in control. But they also fear of getting out of control, but they can also get out of control sometimes. So that's where the self-destruction comes up, is losing control. Obstacle of impatience is about always wanting to be somewhere else or somewhere in the future, not really being patient with the moment, with the present moment. So it could require a different approach to the present moment to overcome it. And these are going to be, different. Some people are going to have more intense uh, obstacles, like they'll manifest themselves more uh, heavy than others. Um, but they're something that we have to learn from through feeling and working through. It makes life a little bit more challenging. So his body types are jovial and lunar. Jovial is on the expression axis. Um, it's a bigger body type. It's the most developed body type. Like Jupiter, so yes, it's very jovial and happy and go lucky, and um, it's also focused on philosophy and stuff like that. Sometimes is is kind of the thing. Um, Lunar is more of a reflective, emotional type, um, but it's also considered the genius. The jovial is called the archetype is the emperor, and Lunar's is the genius. So he's got the emperor and the genius together, as some kind of personality characteristics that he might take on based on his body types. His quadrant is knowledge, so he's focused on, in a group setting, he's the one that provides information and knowledge. And his needs are adventure, freedom, and power. So that's all of his overleaves and all his essence characteristics too. What we can see overall is he's got a good mix of the different axes here. He's a warrior with king, also that's action axis. Sage is expression axis, so that helps with the communicating. Server is on the inspiration axis, and then on his overleaves he has discrimination as his goal, which is on the expression axis, and then he has stoic and passion on the inspiration. So he's got a good mix of stuff. But what's really interesting is seeing his global job of organization and reflection, and how that applies to what he's doing with the Joe Rogan Experience, and the way he approaches life in general. So that's basically his chart. I have some more charts coming that I'm gonna share with you guys too. I have one for Maynard James Keenan, the singer of Tool, as well as Alan Moore, the author of Watchmen. So I'll make those pretty soon. So stay tuned for those. If you like this, please like and subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Madam Scholar out.